All right, let's go ahead and get going. So welcome to the webinar again, everyone. I'm Kasey Cuppoletti, Chief Product Officer at DonorDrive, and I'm joined today by Allie Brooks, Senior Manager, Production and Systems at Eventage, and Kathy Kempff, CEO at Charity Dynamics. A few housekeeping items before we get into it. We are recording today's webinar, and you will receive the recording later today. We'll do some Q&A at the end, so feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A option. We will also have a post-webinar survey, so you can let us know your thoughts on how we can make these webinars better in the future, which is always appreciated. And just lastly, if you've missed any of our previous Building Virtual Events webinars, you can go back and watch them all in our resources section on DonorDrive.com, and you will also see which webinars are coming up next. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into our agenda and level set on what we're going to be talking about today. Kathy is going to take us through the transition that the fundraising space has been experiencing lately. Then we'll hear from Allie about what her clients have been going through and the innovative ways that they're approaching events. I will talk a little bit about technology components that we've seen in successful virtual events on DonorDrive. Kathy's going to introduce us to some very innovative things Charity Dynamics is doing and what our companies are working on together. And then finally, we'll open up with Q&A after that. So first, I'm going to transition over to Kathy, so take it away, Kathy.
All right, thank you. So one of the big things that as we think about the trajectory of the peer-to-peer space, it's really been evolving for years. I know that, back in, 2000s, it was all about the walks, and then things started evolving over time where it was more about the runs, and it got into more of the endurance and cycling. Of course, then we even started we heard everything about DIYs, and this kind of gives us a visual of what this journey has really looked like. We had the Ice Bucket Challenge in 2014. It's kind of like the do-it-yourself type events. The birthday fundraisers, even, when, Facebook really came up on the map several years ago. But one of the big things that has come to light as of, all of these different evolutions is, it's almost like helped accelerate the focus of it being participant minded. It really being about the participant journey, them being able to pick and choose how they want to do it. And quite frankly, as we're going through this, 2020 year and all of the challenges that, it has come with it, it very much has helped, I think, really accelerate and accentuate the fact that the peer-to-peer industry and the event programs are about the participant. It's not about the organization. It's not about the event. And it's really about how do we embrace this new normal and how do we help really with this transition and making sure that these events can continue to be successful in just new and innovative ways. So this is what today's world looks like. Of course, we're all behind a computer screen, but it really is not a not doing anything approach, right? It is something where we're still looking at whether or not we're taking events virtual, or in many cases using completely different terminology. But it's about how do we continue to create strong relationships and build those relationships with our participants to ensure that we can maintain those bonds over time, whether it's in a virtual space leading up to an event or everyone being apart yet together. So it really helps kind of challenge us in a way of how are we doing it differently? And so, as we think through what is that strategy, how are we pivoting? Obviously, we wanted to make sure we had an industry expert with us, with Allie Brooks and Eventage. She is like one of the voices of, representing many different event programs in the event production space. And, it very much is a huge challenge that organizations have been talking to all of us. And I think she's going to really help us kind of set the stage and get a better understanding of what are some of those questions that are being asked and how are we really positioning and strategizing some of those different changes.
Great. So let's transition just a little bit before we get into some of the technology pieces. And Allie, we would really love to hear from you about experiences that your clients are trying to create or trying to recreate So starting out just with a question for you, first and foremost, are you seeing any hesitation from your nonprofit clients to move over to virtual events in today's climate at all?
It's an excellent question, Kasey, and thank you guys so much for having me. And hello to everyone out there in the interwebs. So the answer to that question is not so much of a hesitation to go virtual, but more that people want to do it the right way. And doing it the right way means finding what elements of your program are valuable to your participants, but also valuable to your organization in terms of retaining as much revenue as possible. And that's what we're helping our organizations do here at Eventage, but also with our existing programs and with new ones. So the virtual events that will be successful are those that can retain participants. And that means you need to take the time to design and provide a meaningful and relevant experience. That's not just letting your participants remain on your website as fundraisers, because engagement is key in this environment. So just remember that 2020 is not canceled at all. This might be the most important year for your organization. So don't be afraid to do that, to make the spin, to pivot, because what you do will be meaningful and impactful for you and your participants. Hope that helped.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. So then that takes us really kind of into the next question is, how do you pivot a large event format that you're so familiar with producing and planning
Yes.
to a digital format on computers and phones?
Well, that's also an excellent question, because we're used to seeing just a large scale of a group of people. So the word virtual, we're finding at this point, is becoming very one-dimensional. So we are tasked with making sure that the events that we are creating keep the integrity and the spirit as if it was a physical event. But how do you do that? You update your content on your website to speak to your current and new audiences by laying out your program in complete detail, so they feel that it has been thought through from A to Z, not that you've just thrown something together. And how do you keep that emotional connection to your cause? If there is an athletic component to your event, keeping that athletic connection to the event. It doesn't matter if y'all aren't together to do that. There are plenty of strategies and ways to do that to make sure that your community still feels connected to your cause. And lastly, that pre-event experience and engagement that leads to that very meaningful event day experience. And just remember that this is your event and your programs that you've built for years. And just because they're on a smaller platform does not mean you have to lose that passion for your cause, because at the end of the day, your causes still need that funding, and you need those participants to feel excited for your event, even if they can't physically be there for that crescendo of the tents and the excitement of the event. It is up to you to still create that excitement no matter what forum you're presenting that in.
Absolutely. Great. So can you tell us just a little bit about, I know we were going to talk about one of your clients that's near and dear to your heart, right?
Yes.
Close to Free. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So this event generally happens in September, and we are going into our 10th year of this bike ride. And this community of people is for a hospital out in Connecticut in New Haven. It's part of Yale. It's called Smilow Cancer Hospital. And the event is called the Closer to Free Ride. And this community of people, as you can see here, are so passionate about what they do. And there are elements of this bike ride that we are tasked with to make sure that we kept in, even though we're not saying virtual, we are redesigning this event just for 2020. So you can see in some of these pictures that there's something called the Smilow Salute, which on the next slide, you'll see just what that is. So this is an element of this event where we stop in front of that hospital. And the bikers get off of their bikes and they talk and they see the doctors and the nurses and the patients at this hospital, and is a way for them to really connect with that community. So how do you make that into a virtual space? So that's what we are tasked with doing. And Kasey, if you can go back back to that other slide, because there is another piece of this element to this event, which is, we call it the Closer to Free bike. So because this is a cycling event, you can see that our hero shot there of a woman, she's a survivor. So she receives this bike, and then everybody signs the bike, and then that bike lives at the hospital. how do you do that if you don't physically have a bike there for people to sign? Because we don't want people to touch the pens. So these are all things that we really want y'all and our clients to keep in mind as we're changing and pivoting this event just for 2020 is what are those touch points? What are those virtual elements that you need to pull from your physical event to make it still feel like this is their event? This is their bike ride. This is their walk. This is even their gala that they come to once a year or twice a year, however often you have these events. If it's a chapter event all over the country, how do you make sure that people know that if they're looking at this on their phone or if they're watching something on their computer, that they're still going to have that emotional moment, that they're going to laugh, cry, and cheer? So that is how we are reimagining this with our clients every day of our research that we're doing to make sure that whatever those elements are, if it's a bike, if it's a moment, if it's a speaker, if it's a tribute bib, whatever that is, to still incorporate that. We're not trying to recreate the event because we can't. We physically can't. We can't have tents. We can't have food vendors. It's just not an option. But what can you hold on to make sure that people still feel connected to your cause?
Yeah, so can you dig into that a little bit more? So just what
Sure.
are some of the ways that, Ride Closer to Free or some of your other clients really are saving those, those moments or elements of event day and kind of transitioning them into a digital format? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So part of this, like what I was saying about just keeping the integrity of the bike ride, is it all starts with communication. So we not redesigned our website, but we sat down and we looked at all of our copy and we decided, what would this mean for a virtual scale? What type of participants are we looking for? What does that mean for fundraising? What does that mean because we have required fundraising for this event? What does that mean for it? Because we can't, in this environment, how do we expect people that possibly could have lost their jobs? Like what can we do to make sure that we are feeling that we're not being insensitive to what's going on in the world? Because what we're experiencing for Closer to Free and for all of our other clients, you guys are too. Everybody's in the same place. So it's not that we're trying to reinvent this. The sandwich of this event will always be the same. You have people register, they fundraise, and then they do something else. But what is the inside of that sandwich that makes your event super special? And that's where these things come in. So some of those elements are pre-produced video content. So at that day of the event, you can still tell your story. You can relay your mission of impact and information. Most important, to connect your community. It's setting up apps. It's working with technology partners such as DonorDrive and Charity Dynamics to make a new program for you. These companies, DonorDrive and Charity Dynamics, I fully stand behind, because they're not going to look at your event as everybody else's. They're going to look at your event as your event. What is special about your event? This is what we do at Eventage also that makes you different. We're not just going to cookie cutter and put you in a slot with every other event that we see. We're going to make sure, as Charity Dynamics and DonorDrive do, that make sure that this is different for you. So like I said, that's with an app that is bringing in the athletic component, that is bringing in push notifications and admin capabilities. So you, as an admin, feel that you have the power to make sure that you get all of this information out to people. Yes, you're relying on your technology partners or a production company like us, but it's still your voice and it is still your purpose to get this out to your constituents. So it's taking your elements, picking and choosing which are the most important ones. You don't have to take everything, but finding those touch points that are so important to your event and figuring out what that means on a smaller scale, that they might still not be able to touch it, but they can still feel it. And then that is part of kind of the human spirit, right? That we're all going through right now. I have a 10-month-old that hasn't seen his grandparents in 3 months, and we're going to see them tomorrow to Delaware. Don't worry, we've been self-quarantining for 2 weeks. But just to have that personal connection, I mean, he only knows them on a phone, on FaceTime. So what is that going to mean for him when he sees them in reality? So that's the same kind of thing that we're going through now. We want to make sure that people still feel when they're looking at event day experience, pre-event, on event. What is that new term? Not forever, just right now. What does that mean to you? So that's kind of what we're guiding our clients through. Don't forget the passion and the inspiration of what brought you to want to do these events in the first place.
So Allie, one last question.
Right.
Can you talk about that, the salute where, patients do get to come out and interact with the riders? Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing instead of that this year?
Well, kind of. So it's not fully fleshed out just yet,
Okay.
but how can we so what's unique about this event right now is as it's happening in a lot of hospitals, especially this particular cancer hospital, because it's a freestanding cancer hospital. They had to move a lot of these patients out to make floors for COVID. So they transitioned this hospital from a 100% cancer hospital. They put them in another hospital and they moved COVID in. So now it's figuring out when they're bringing those cancer patients back, because if we wanted to do something, some sort of installation or anything for them, it would be pointless if the cancer patients weren't there. So our vision is kind of creating something that people can look at. Now, either that's something that they would come outside for or something that would live in the hospital. So we're still kind of figuring out with our client, what's going to be safe. This rides in September. So who knows what's going to happen? So our job is to figuring out an A, B, and C. What would be the most ideal situation? And then if we still have to have social distancing, if those cancer patients are not back in that hospital, what is our next plan of action? So we want to make sure that we have some sort of touch point for that piece. And that as of right now, we're thinking about doing something, not to have people gather, but just for something for someone to look at in real time. Because a lot of the other elements we're talking about are virtual. They're apps, they're just a change of what we're doing. But to have that piece of that, to actually see something in that hospital that we can leave there also would be amazing. So that's our wish list.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Great. Okay. And any other thoughts about Ride Closer to Free or just event day experiences that you want to add here?
Thank you so much for asking. So just my kind of closing argument for this, it's not an argument at all. It's just for all of y'all to just remember that this is your event and this is your cause, and the more passion that you can put into this, the more inspiring you'll be to your participants and your donors. So don't forget, at the end of the day, your causes still need funding. Cancer research, suicide prevention, all your other causes. And just because the time is a little bit different right now, please don't lose sight of that, because your constituents won't either. So, and I know that you will find your stride in a 2020 version of your event. And when large scale events can finally come back, I believe, we will all look back at this moment as strength and courage. And we took a challenge, but we didn't lose sight of who we are, that this is still their event, that you can lay out step-by-step instructions for what they are going to do to make sure that they keep that momentum to turn into 2021, 2022, that you continue to have that alumni engagement and that emotional connection to your cause.
I think you're right. Yeah. 2021 is going to look very different because of all this, for sure.
Yes, for sure. But I look forward to 2021. 2020 can kind of take that.
We're all ready for 2021.
Well, it's not over, Allie. You said it yourself.
I know, you're right. It's not canceled.
It's not canceled. So. Okay, great. Thanks, Allie.
Awesome. Absolutely.
So let's move in, transition just a little bit and start kind of digging into some of the technology that helps enable virtual experiences. Allie talked about it a little bit, but I'm going to go through just some of the things that we've seen in DonorDrive across our platform, starting just really with kind of the basic components, and then transition over to Kathy to talk a little bit more about some of the exciting new things that we're working on together. So first and foremost, really what we've seen, the basics, the building blocks that you have to have in place for virtual events or campaigns is really, it all kind of starts with community and mission building, adding on top interactive experiences, of course, to really get folks engaged. And then we'll dig into a little bit more detail on motivators and gamification that you can use to help people feel excited, help them, stay connected to your cause kind of throughout. So starting with just community and mission building, really none of this should be new for probably, anybody on this webinar today, but this is a challenging time. So you do have to find ways to reignite people's passion for the important work that you're doing, that you still have to continue to do, right? And the hardest part of any campaign really is nailing the messaging, the imagery, you know, the cadence and conversations. And you really need to just make sure that you're giving people reasons to believe, to reignite that passion. So, you know, reminding people regularly why your mission needs their help more than ever. You know, so answering those questions: why your mission, why now in the middle of all that's going on, and you know, how can you make connections to what's going on with your mission? We've seen some really great examples from clients where you know, they do explain that, you know, their particular constituents, in their view, is very impacted, you know, even more by what's going on, and they need more services, right? There's higher demand for the services that they offer. And also just establishing a regular cadence to highlight stories by individuals who are impacted by your cause. And, you know, again, there's lots of ways to connect those stories to what's going on out there in the world. So that may seem very obvious, but it is something that, you know, it does take a lot of time and effort to really do very well. So we have seen a lot of really great examples of it, but we've also seen, you know, it go the other way too. So just looking for those ways to keep content fresh, you know, finding ways to connect that content to the realities of your constituent base. And then just second, you know, building community engagement is more critical than ever. So, you know, this is a great opportunity for you to really rally your influencers in your particular network. So taking your most passionate community members to help spread your message, right? Highlight those folks in your story. And this is going to sound very, very obvious, but engaging regularly, you know, on behalf of your organization on social media groups with discussions that are relevant to your cause. It does sound obvious, but it does take dedicated time to do that you probably feel like you don't have right now in the middle of everything that you have to deal with. So just suggesting create a schedule for yourself, you know, block it off on your calendar at least once a week, maybe twice a week if you can. You know, engage with people one-to-one in the topics that they're really concerned about right now to keep that momentum going, keep that connection built with your cause. So then transitioning a little bit more into the technology piece, talking about interactive experiences, and hopefully this is not a new topic for you on this call, but it's okay if it is. But we have seen, you know, live streaming and chat just become an extremely effective mechanism in both lead-up events and also event day programming. So this is one aspect, you know, of a virtual event or campaign strategy that is really critical to consider right now. You know, in the early days of the pandemic in the United States, at least, you know, we did see lots of Zoom calls, and now folks are starting to transition a little bit into more sophisticated event day experiences live. So we're showing you just a campaign from London Health Sciences Foundation that recently ran on DonorDrive. You can see their stream there in the middle, the Heroes of Health, and anywhere, you know, you have an interactive experience, we do recommend that you have real-time activity surrounding it. So for example, you know, having a live chat that you use to engage with your viewers during a stream, having someone, you know, dedicated to making sure they're answering questions or engaging with the audience is really important. And then other interactive pieces for people who are watching or giving as well. So you can see we've got like a donate button locked up with the stream. And then when people give, you know, they should be able to get some instant recognition. So, you know, highlight their donation either on the stream through things like interactive overlays, which is a whole other topic, or, you know, we've got like a real-time activity feed that will recognize donors as, you know, as those donations are coming in. So giving them a way to feel connected to what is going on in the event that you're producing. And then just lastly, I do want to talk about giving without leaving the experience, which we feel is very important. We've found that just over the last couple of years, this has been particularly effective. So we have a feature called Express Donate that just really pairs up perfectly with streaming. It was really, you can use it without streaming, but it was sort of built with that purpose in mind to let people really donate while they're in the context of the story in the middle of watching and listening. So the page doesn't have to refresh or anything like that. So just little touches that really do make a big difference, you know, when folks are interacting on a live stream with you. And then just lastly, I did want to touch on some motivators and gamification tactics, and really starting with something that is like back to the basics, back to, you know, however many years ago, way before I was in the fundraising space, but just fundraising challenges. Seems like a very simple idea. You know, you really don't see too many of these very often or very regularly these days. Although we have seen some really great ones around matching gifts. So just things that you can put out there to your community, you know, challenge them to get 3 new team members today, or, you know, donate now and your sponsor will match up to X dollars today only. Those types of challenges where people can, you know, have some sense of urgency are still today very effective. And then incorporating personalized coaching tracks for your participants or people who normally would come to your event. So our clients on DonorDrive really use scheduled notifications very, very heavily leading up to event day to really automate and personalize communications. And those can be based on behavior that people have taken in the system. So knowing your audience, knowing what they've been doing or not doing, you know, if there's a lack of behavior, you can kind of give them a little ping and ask them to take some action as well. And triggering things like achievement badges to give them some recognition as well for what they've done. And then just one other thing, milestones, being able to set mini goals leading up to your goal. So in this London Health Sciences Foundation example, you know, they hosted a 4-hour live stream on YouTube. So they had the chat going, which was really great. But one particularly effective thing that they did was they set these milestones. You can see those on their thermometer here. And it helped them reach $20,000 towards their goal in about 2 hours. So they had a radio DJ hosting the stream, and he would do things like push-ups live if they hit a certain milestone, or other just funny activities that would really keep people kind of watching and helping them get to that next level. So then other than that, really, you know, just individual activities people can participate in at home, like fitness challenges. So just on that topic, I'm going to go ahead and transition over to Kathy, and she'll talk about the work that DonorDrive and Charity Dynamics are doing together, and then cover us off on that fitness tracking topic.
Excellent. Thanks, Kasey. So DonorDrive and Charity Dynamics have been working for a number of years now. We've had our integration in place for just about 4.5 years. And in fact, Closer to Free Ride was our first joint client. And, you know, one of the things that we really wanted to focus on as we were thinking about, you know, how do we continue to evolve and how do we continue to innovate in a way that's going to really help organizations create that level of engagement with participants that they're so hungry for. And so that was one of the impetuses behind making sure that we had a mobile app integration that is specific to DonorDrive, and making sure that we create a seamless data experience and foray into configuration between both. So before we kind of dive into activity tracking, because I know that's something that we've had a lot of questions about already, let me tell you a little bit more about just the mobile app platform. The mobile app platform is called Boundless Fundraising. That is the product line of Charity Dynamics. We've actually been in the space for a number of years. Our mobile app has actually been around for about 11 years. We have over 125 event programs, and I am a complete data nerd, I have to admit. So I'm all about source coding and attribution. And we've been able to raise over $650 million for our customers. And you know, these organizations are really seeing mobile as such a key component in terms of being able to find users where they want to be and engaging them how and where they want to be. So, you know, one of the big things is not just, you know, ease of use and where they want to be, but making fundraising just simple and really enabling users to fundraise on many different social channels rather than, you know, just a handful, where when you're in a mobile app, you have access to a number of different things that may not necessarily be available on a website. So yes, one of the great things that we're able to really help broaden that reach to increase the net of number of prospects that a user might be targeting in terms of donations. So let me just walk you through at a very high level some of the key functionality that we have available within the mobile app platform. The mobile app is fully branded for the event program, and this is the Closer to Free Ride app. So, you know, colors, logos, etc. But we want it to be super simple, and we want it to be a seamless experience for user. And so it's going to be their same registration login that they would use for their website that they can actually use for the mobile app. It's available for iOS devices via the iTunes Store, or Android devices on Google Play. But one of the big things that we wanted to make sure the app was accomplishing is anything that you can do in your dashboard. You know, making sure you can do your fundraising, making sure you can, you know, manage your page, making sure you can see who's on your team. Anything you can do on the website, you should be able to do in an optimized mobile app experience. And here you can see one of the screenshots of, you know, what are the different messages that can be sent via different channels. So we have 7 different channels available. And again, not every organization might have demographics where Snapchat is important, but for some, it certainly is. So you have Facebook, we have the ability to send emails, you have SMS or texting, you have Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, WhatsApp. And so it's really about finding users where they want to be, making it easy, and everyone's going to be different, right? And how do we make it as simple as possible so they can fundraise when they want to, how they want to, and through the types of channels that they want to as well. And push notifications, of course, is another, you know, huge, you know, feature that, you know, nonprofits really love, in that, you know, they want to be able to communicate with users, and sometimes emails can get lost, right? With our email flooded inbox that we all have, how do you get, you know, upfront and top of mind for users? So being able to notify users and send them notifications based on their fundraising milestones, based on days to the event, and now, of course, based on the activity that they're tracking. One of the nice things about push notifications is really using it as a mechanism to incent and motivate them and help inspire them to be better fundraisers. Another big thing is making sure that we have the keys to make teams successful, because as we know, for many of these events, the team component, that camaraderie, making sure that everyone is, you know, pushing everyone forward and really looking at that overall goal is really, really pivotal. So being able to see the team captain having access to who's on their team, how they're doing against their goal, being able to message them directly, being able to communicate to the whole team. You know, certainly one of the key things in making sure that there is, you know, overall visibility into how they're doing from a fundraising perspective. But there are a lot more details. Anything that you can do in your dashboard, basically, you should be able to do in this mobile app experience. But what we really want to talk about is, how do we create that sense of event day? And this picture to me, you know, that Ali shared with me was just said it all. How do we create that sense of togetherness? How do we create that sense of, you know, of achievement? And so while we can't have these large gatherings for, you know, many of us, one of the things that, you know, organizations had been asking me and asking Kasey is, how can we still have an event experience but allow users to do it on their own terms? And so that was really the impetus behind Boundless Motion. Boundless Motion is our newest offering, which is going to be seamlessly integrated with the DonorDrive platform, where users can select to track their activity, set their own goals, and be able to have their apart yet together experience. And there's a lot of different ways that it can be sliced and diced, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But I want to just talk a little bit more about integration, because I think that's really key to the successful partnership. One of the things that we're going to be doing is working closely on getting the data that is being captured from activity back into DonorDrive, so that from a reporting perspective, from a leaderboard perspective, user stats, etc., you're going to be able to get that information within the DonorDrive platform. So really excited to make sure that that information sharing is going to be very seamless. This release is going to be, this release will be in the summer timeframe, and it's basically going to be the first foray into the DonorDrive Charity Dynamics mobile app version. And actually, one of the fun and exciting things is we're going to be continuing to evolve that from a roadmap perspective and layering on additional features that are DonorDrive specific to ensure that we're maximizing that experience and making it as seamless and as easy as possible for users, regardless if they want to be on the website or they want to be in the mobile app. They'll be able to do a lot of the same things. But let's actually talk a little bit about activity tracking, because I know that's something that folks are really interested in. So users are going to be able to, within the mobile app, connect either to Apple Health, Google Fit, and or Strava. So those are going to be the initial data points that we will be pulling into the app, where they can track their activity. They could track their activity by different types. So for example, some events might be a ride, some might be a walk, some might be a run. And so as you are actually participating in those types of activities, those activities specifically will be included in your tally for what you've achieved. So it's actually going to be smart and not just pick your distance, but actually the activity type. Once you actually connect to one of these specific apps to pull in your activity information, you can see what your results are. So what is, how much have I done against my goal? How do I rank against others? What's the total amount achieved by, this overall event program? So there's some events that might have a single event, and some that might have, 10 events, and some might have hundreds of events. And so how do you almost create an opportunity to have a roll-up data around the global impact around the community and what they've been able to achieve? And that's actually where we start seeing a lot of power around corporate sponsorship and monetization opportunities, where organizations might be able to say, during this 7-day window, if we hit, 500,000 miles of, riding, that's gonna, we're gonna donate $100,000, and be able to have, the data point to pull, here's what we're doing, and this is what we've achieved, and enable them to really rally their entire community and be able to feel like they're making a difference and they're part of this larger movement. So, really excited to see all the creativity around how different customers have already started embracing their different strategies on how they're going to take advantage and leverage the activity tracking for their events this fall. But as I mentioned, there's individual goals, there's team goals, event goals, and then overarching event program goals. So you can really slice and dice it in a number of different ways. So within the Get Active tab, which is going to be this new tab within the app, users can actually have challenges, and challenges are going to be different things that you can, again, motivate. Gamification, of course, is huge. So you can have, specific goals such as, maybe running 50 miles or running 100 miles, or maybe it's around having a, 5-day streak of, continuously being active. And so all of those will be fully configurable, and then they can be earned. And of course, none of this would really matter unless we can make sure that it translates into increased engagement as well as increased fundraising. So anytime, users are taking a challenge or have completed a challenge, and or even with push notifications, being able to message users, being able to motivate them, being able to congratulate them, and having an opportunity for them to make an ask through their social network to their friends and family, right? It's about really creating that conversion of activity to fundraising. But of course, the other thing that's going to be huge, everyone cares about rankings. There's always a strong sense of competition in this world. Being able to see how you rank against others, being able to see how other teams rank. And the other huge component is there could either be a strategy of leading up to event day. So you might say 30 days before an event day, this is how everyone's rallying around, being active, staying engaged as we try to get them, to be fundraising. But the other strategy that we've also seen, and I know this is something that Closer to Free is also looking at, is also a day of event experience, where you might say, day of event, here's the schedule. Between 8 and 10, we want you to do X, Y, Z. Then we might have a live stream, and we might have a celebratory video. So being able to track both leading up to event activity, being able to have those moments of celebration, the total tallies, the statistics, corporate sponsor monetization opportunities, but then also day of event. So, certainly that's still a culmination, but it is just as important as leading up to, and certainly from a fundraising perspective, just that last opportunity to get the fundraising in the door. But challenges certainly are going to be a huge component of this application, and being able to make sure that we are keeping folks engaged, that we have a way of really helping them celebrate those moments and those small achievements along the way, those kind of mini little milestones. And of course, that social share component is going to be really key. How do we just convert all of this activity, all of this engagement into those fundraising opportunities? So super excited to be able to partner with DonorDrive and Closer to Free Ride on this new endeavor around activity tracking, and really excited to have it available for the fall events.
Great, thank you, Kathy. Yeah, and same on the DonorDrive side. We're all very excited to continue working with Allie on these amazing experiences that she and the eventage team are creating, and also working on that shared roadmap that Kathy mentioned. So our teams are working very hard, and we're really excited to see this out there in the wild. So with that, let's take a moment and we'll open it up. Go ahead and open it up for Q&A. We do have a lot of questions coming in, which is really great. So if we don't get to your question today, we will follow up with you after the webinar. And then just a reminder, we'll send out the webinar recording later today. So first question, Allie, I'm going to send this to you. Can you address burnout with virtual events? Hearing more and more that people are tired of Zoom calls. How is this impacting event planning and ways to stand apart for the crowd? What suggestions do you have for building interaction and participant excitement?
Absolutely. That's what I was kind of touching on earlier with kind of the word virtual event is becoming, it's saturated, it is overused, it is one-dimensional. So how do you take people off of a Zoom screen of just having, what I'm sure you're seeing, what we're seeing is, hey, we're gonna have this virtual event, come and watch us on the Zoom call. And we're gonna have people speak to you that are probably unscripted. There's no music in the background. There's no crescendo of a thank you, of why you're here, of remembering the cause, of having a pre-show deck. So those are the things that we kind of bring to the table at Eventage, is how can we make that event day experience so much better? And that is adding that pre-recorded video element. So when they come to your event, which they will be notified of the day of activity from Charity Dynamics app that they will then see on DonorDrive, of course, they will know that they are coming into an experience, and that experience starts with a pre-show deck, possibly. It has music, it has elements, so they don't feel that they are coming to watch something, they are coming to experience something, that there is still that countdown to your event, that when they go out, they are still part of that event, and when they come back from whatever activities they're doing, there's still something to be involved in. There's follow-ups, and there's engagement from your sponsors, and whatever those experiences will be, if it's using other technology for social wall or mosaic or whatever kind of a touch feel piece of that will set you apart. And that will make your sandwich taste better and look better than the others. Because like I said, the wrappings of these will be the same. We still want people to do something, but what is that something that makes it different? And that something that makes it different is not just one dimensional of somebody logging in and watching something. It's somebody coming to a moment, either on an app, it can still be on a screen, but what is that feel of that? How do you engage your volunteers? How do you pre-event make sure that your community is still active, even if they can't touch and hug and be there together? How do you make every single person that is involved in this event feel like they are still a VIP of your event, even if they can't be together? So that is what we are constantly trying to do here at Eventage. I know Charity Dynamics and DonorDrive are as well. What can set you apart and make you feel different? And it's taking what is already there and then building upon it and making it better and doing your research to make sure that when it comes to that event day experience, all of the pre-production and the pre-event things that you have, kind of what Kasey was saying with fundraising challenges, sponsor engagement, because your sponsors, you don't want to lose them. They provide so much resource for you as far as money goes. I mean, there's still opportunities for in-kind donations, even in a virtual atmosphere. So don't lose sight of that while you are just kind of getting stuck in that virtual world. Think of a different name. Get the virtual out of your mind. It is still an event. It's just not boots on the ground event. Hopefully that helps.
Absolutely, that's great. Another question was, just can we elaborate a little bit more about motivators and gamification regarding incentives, individual activities, and maybe another example of another example of what kinds of incentives are appropriate for today. So I'll answer a little bit, but Allie or Kathy, if you have input, I'd love to hear that from you too. But I think that the most important thing is to make any kind of incentive related to your cause, right? So In the gaming space, we see incentives a lot where, if people donate, potentially they'll get like a game code, for example. In more traditional events like this, that's where I'd love to hear from Allie, what kind of incentives are more appropriate for like a bike event or a walk event, things like that. Anything specific that you can recommend there?
Yeah, well, we're really looking kind of at our incentive program of something that, it used to be obviously a tiered incentive program. So you reach a certain milestone and you get X, Y, and Z. So the crescendo of that, as you build up and up and up, is that event day experience of what you will be wearing, what your experience will be as far as that higher level of incentive. But we didn't want to lose sight of the lower level folks, especially taking away required fundraising. How do you still incentivize? So there's things that people used to get for free that we're now using as those incentive rewards, and not in a way of, haha, no, you don't get your free stuff. It's still because we want people to reach those milestones. We're saying that, yes, you don't have to raise 500, but we're really encouraging you to do so, not just because of these incentives, but because the money that you're raising will do X, Y, and Z for Smilo or AFSP or whoever it is. So with that tiered program that we're thinking about is what can people have that they are riding around their community? They are riding around their community. They are having their Zoom calls with their friends. What can they do and what resources can we give them for them to still feel like they're part of this Closer to Free ride? We used to give away long signs. Now long signs are going to become part of our incentive program, and then we're going to utilize our community to help us get those out without being around each other and touching each other. So it's adding more of incentives. It's utilizing our volunteers more. It's adding more incentives to them as well, to make sure that they still feel connected to the cause. Yes, it's us still mailing things out on occasion, but it's also using our website. We have a dedicated page for our Premier Circle that raised a certain amount of money. It's using that pre-show deck that I was talking about earlier, really how to highlight people so they still do feel like they still have that on-site recognition of the money that they've raised. So it's taking those programs that you might have had, figuring out what is still applicable, like you were saying, Kasey, and then making sure that people still feel like they are getting something. Not that people are always motivated by incentives. It's just nice to have stuff. It's nice to feel that you've gotten to a point and you can almost, like in a show off fashion, why will you have achievement badges also on DonorDrive? It's for that reason, like something to be super proud of. It's not, hey, look how much money I raised. It's like, look how much money I raised. Look what people donated to me. And because of that, I got this item that I can now write your name on, or I can do something with to show my appreciation for this bike ride and my attention to this community.
Yeah, absolutely. Those little touches, achievement badges are a great example of just a very cost-effective way to recognize people. The circle where you're highlighting specific people who achieve a certain milestone, another really great example. Moving on to the next question, and I'm going to send this one to Kathy. So can you tell us about just which activity tracking apps are recommended? Is it Google, Apple, Strava? Which one should we be promoting as an organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the reality is it very much depends on your event type. So if you think about the demographic of your users, if you are looking at a 5K walker, they don't even most likely know what Strava is. They're not going to have that necessarily downloaded on their phone because it's really more geared to cyclists or endurance runners. And so you really need to make sure, again, and I've said this before, but finding users where they want to be and making it easy, right? So Apple Health and Google Fit are default health apps that come on Android and iOS devices. So that makes it pretty easy. There are wearables that can integrate into those apps. So that makes it also super easy. For example, Garmin can integrate into all of them. And then Strava has access to like 10 or 15 different wearables. It's really crazy how many integration points they have. So by being able to have at least those 3 different options, you're able to capture the majority of the audience. And certainly we are looking at additional integration points down the road. But really endurance is really going to speak to the Strava, the Strava app, and then your walkers and maybe just not quite as, maybe like hardcore athletes are going to be just much more used to using what's easily accessible to them, which is going to be on their mobile device and on their watches, which of course everyone wants to have their smart watches linked up to their daily trackers. So those would be my recommendations.
Absolutely. It's definitely important to look at your audience and see what's relevant to them, and also, give people options, right? It's not going to be a one size fits all, right? Like I have an Apple Watch, but, my husband uses Strava. So just going to depend on what people are more comfortable with.
Exactly.
Cool. One other question for you, Allie. We're kind of putting you on the spot here. Would you recommend a registration fee for a virtual event? Ooh.
Yes, I would, and I'll tell you why. So this is something that we toyed with a lot, especially with redesigning the Closer to Free ride, is because we were eliminating obviously that fundraising minimum, but to help defray for some production costs, because you don't want to lose that production value even if you're not having a physical event. Like I talked about with having, it's either incentives or it's pre-event production of videos, if it's an app, whatever it is, you want to still defray from those costs. If it's any staff travel that you have to have, so having a reduced registration fee, your fee will enable you, like you as an organization, to provide any online resources also. If it's training guides, registration kits, the app use, you will still be able to have those things because you're still collecting that money. So you're not extending too much out there that you're not bringing in. Like those tribute bibs that I was talking about. So you want to still be able to collect that registration fee. Yes, it'll be modified. It'll most likely be different, but just to defray some of those costs, and people will understand that. They're not going to think you're being greedy. They're going to think, oh, they still need help because you still want. So with our events, we are so very proud that 100% of the peer-to-peer money that is raised goes to that cause, goes to that hospital, goes to those patients. There's got to be another way we can pay for things. And it should not come out of your donations. It should come out of a registration fee that is not tax deductible, that people are more than willing to pay to give. So I think that it is very important. I do not think it's being insensitive to ask for registration fees. I think it is a disservice to yourself to not do it. So get that money, guys. You can do it.
Thanks, Allie.
You're welcome.
Let's take one more question, and then we'll wrap things up. Kathy, so let's end on Boundless. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between the Boundless app and the DonorDrive site, and then just some of the things that people can do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I would really look at Boundless Fundraising mobile app is it's very much complementary to what a user can do on DonorDrive. It's not replacing at all. It is supposed to be kind of a nice marriage and being able to work, very nicely in concert with. One of the things that we've seen in terms of kind of mobile app or mobile device usage is 90% of time that users are in a mobile device, they're actually in an app and not in a browser. So while we have a mobile responsive site, which DonorDrive has that out of the box, you also want to make sure that you're optimizing the experience. So being able to have an app is going to use some of the native features that are available within the mobile device that just make it really easy, right? And then you also do have some additional social channels to integrate in terms of how users can fundraise, so Snapchat, et cetera, which again, unless you have an app, you can't really do that level of integration just because on the web, you can't quite do that same thing. So I very much see it as an opportunity to level up what you have and for both to really help, increase and accelerate the amount of engagement and fundraising for users. Kasey, anything you'd add?
I think you said it. I mean, we're really excited just to, continue our partnership. Obviously it's been a very successful partnership over the years, and looking forward to just making that user experience even better, making it easier for our clients who are using both DonorDrive and Charity Dynamics to, manage all of this stuff. That's a really important piece that we don't want to overlook. We know that, really all of this it takes work on your part at the organization. So just making that as easy as possible is really critical.
I agree with that. Just sorry to interrupt, but I agree with that 100%. As somebody that is an admin to all of our clients' DonorDrive sites and working with Charity Dynamics, to have that relationship between the two of them working so seamlessly and nicely for an admin side is phenomenal, because the faster that we can get these new programs and out to our constituents, the better we kind of look that we have, you know, all of our ducks in a row, and the faster we can get questions answered and new products out as an admin is remarkable. So thank you to both of you for continuing to challenge yourselves as companies to make sure that the organizations and the admins are always in the forefront of your mind to make sure that that end user has the best experience. So hats off to both of you for that.
Well, yes, and I'll echo that sentiment. You know, it's been a really great partnership between all three companies working together to help make these experiences happen. And so we'll continue listening to, you know, folks in our audience, our clients, of course, to understand, you know, really what people are trying to accomplish and coming up with these really fantastic solutions. You know, if I say so myself, I don't have to do the work, right? Yeah, it's really our teams, right? But yes, thank you to you both for joining us today. And then just last reminder, I promise we'll send you the webinar recording afterwards. And if you could stick around, take our post-event survey, let us know, you know, what you'd like to see going forward on these. With that, have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.